So you saved some money, you quit your job, and started your own company. Congratulations! And very quickly after that, you realize there's so much more about owning a company that you have to know in order to stay in business and make sure your dream doesn't become a nightmare. In this video, I'm going to go over 3 very important topics that you as a first-time business owner or as a business launching out into the market today need to know in order to survive. So if you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. And it would mean so much to us if you would just take just a second to like and subscribe and maybe even share it to somebody if it's beneficial to you and if you think it might be a help to somebody out there who's starting their own business or thinking about starting their own business. Because these are some of the things that I would wanted to know before I started a business that would have been very, very helpful. So first of all, I want to acknowledge something. If you're feeling pressured, overwhelmed, hearing a lot of noise in the market, maybe a little bit afraid, you're not alone. That's exactly the life of an entrepreneur. Most of the time, we go from pretty much 2 extremes. Pure exhilaration to bone-crushing fear about 20 times per day. Not really, but I'm just trying to give an example that if you're in that boat, you're probably not alone, and it doesn't mean you need to shut down your company. It means there's much to do, much to learn, and much to work on to help you to get a little bit more even flow in your emotions as well as in your business as you start to build it. The top 3 things that you've got to get a hand on immediately after starting your company. And this is without question, there's no debate on this. There's too many studies have been done. There's too many companies that have been crushed by this. These are the top things, okay? And these are the top 3 things that I've seen as I've been working with other business owners and entrepreneurs. Well, number 1, cash flow management. Oh my goodness. The importance of maintaining healthy cash flow in your business is the number 1. If you think about business altogether, cash, it is the blood in your organization. When there is no cash, your business has no blood. In a human, when we have no blood, we are dead. Look at your business as an entity, human. That's why it's called an entity, a firm, a organization. Small name, organ, right? If it has no blood, it cannot survive. So what do we have to learn? We have to learn financial management, cash flow management. We have to learn about taxes. What are 3 things that you can do? Understand what true profit is. So many people don't understand what true profit is when they get into their business. They get in their business, they start doing their work, and they think that all the money that comes in or too large of a portion of the money that comes in is profit. And it's completely not. There are so many expenses. There's the taxes, there's vendor payments, there's partner payments, there's payments for, there's the fact that you need to save for your emergency fund. There's the fact that you have other expense funds that you need to be saving for on a monthly basis. All of these types of operating expenses, people think, well, I made $50,000 this month. I had a great month of sales and I only had $15,000 of expenses, so I made a ton of money. Well, hold on there, Buck. For for 12 months of operating, what is the required expense? Well, this subscription only comes due once per quarter. Okay, you have to plan for that monthly so that you have the money when that expense shows up. Well, I'm hoping that I have sales when that expense shows up to cover that expense. No, that's a terrible way to manage your budget. You can't do it that way. You have to plan. You have to take all your expenses, divide them out monthly, and make sure that you have the money for the expense when the expense comes due. This is a big first error that so many small business owners make. They kind of just look into the future and hope that they're going to have the money when it's time to pay the bill. And I had a commander in the United States Air Force. He said, hope is just a poor excuse for poor planning and execution. And I believe that to this day. It rings in my mind. And it is, in a large sense, not in every sense, because hope is important in all areas of life, but in the sense of you could have done something and you didn't, hope is a poor excuse for poor planning and execution. So staying debt free. There is a myth in the marketplace that says you cannot operate a company without debt. And there's books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, by Robert Kiyosaki that says you should leverage debt, and the smartest people on earth, they leverage debt to get wealthy. And I'm here to say, yes, there are people who do that, and I do have good friends who do this actually. But some of the best companies that I know, on Dave Ramsey of Ramsey Solutions, they operate completely debt free, and they're going to be going on $1 billion sometime in the next probably 10 years past the $1 billion mark, completely debt free. So the idea that you have to take a huge loan and get into debt to start your company is completely false. Stay debt free. Put the money in the account, use the money to run the business, and if the money grows, you're doing okay. If the money dwindles and goes completely away, that means you're not doing good and you don't have any profit, and you probably don't want to keep running that business anyways. Or you have some big major changes that you need to implement into your systems to make sure that you keep your money instead of just spend it and lose it. Okay, so staying debt free, that's the second one in the financial one. And then the third one, I hinted to this in the previous one, set aside monthly money for emergency fund and tax spending. When you're running your business, you set aside a portion. If you're in the first 12 months, it's hard to know what that number is going to be, but you can think about it based on what your tax bracket is and how many and how much money you're making, and look at the expenses that you have, and you can calculate more or less what your taxes are going to be in the forthcoming year when you go to pay them. And that money needs to be set aside every single month. And then after you've been in business for more than a year, you need to start making quarterly payments so that when the tax time comes, you've already made your tax payments and you don't have a big chunk of money that you owe to the government, and that they don't have a big chunk of money owed back to you. Because when you do that, that means you are lending the government money for that period of time at zero interest so that they can do whatever the government does with their money. And we all know that they're inefficient and normally wasted. So make sure that you set aside money every single month in a fund. There's just, you take all the money that comes in and take a percentage and set it aside for your emergency fund. You have, or retained earnings / emergency fund / whatever you want to call it, rainy day fund. It just has to be there. It's a big pile of money that continues to grow over the life of the company as you do your business. And as your business grows to a different level, the fund has to be increased. You have to deliberately, intentionally say, okay, now we're going from this level of retained earnings to this level of retained earnings, and set the money aside over a period of time to where till you can get to that amount. That way you can have sufficient retained earnings through the life cycle of your company. And this is a great help for companies, especially when you're trying to stay debt free. So big point around the financial management and the tax management, because most company fails happen because incorrect financial management or improper tax and accounting processes. So don't be one of those companies. It's an easy one to eliminate. There's simply, you have to follow the good and common practices for accounting and ethical practice for accounting and tax management. And this is not something that's a great mystery. You just have to learn it and start to apply it. That way you can eliminate this entire section of cash flow management from being a problem for your company. There's so much more that goes into this, guys, and I know that I'm trying to oversimplifying it with what I'm talking about, but if you can really avoid these three things and start to learn about them very intensely at the beginning, you will eliminate years of heartache. And this one is key, because once you get your business rolling, you realize that 18-hour work days are not a way of life. And by the way, for many of you, you need to understand this. It's going to take a year of 18-hour work days to get your business up off the ground and able to survive. So if you're not ready for that, if you don't want to do that, if that's not your style, don't start a new business, all right? Just do whatever it is that you're doing. Figure out a way to make them enough money for you and your family and enjoy that. But don't start a new business if you're not ready to make that sacrifice, because starting your business will require you to sacrifice on levels that you never would have imagined. And if you're not ready for that deep sacrifice and the required willingness to go far beyond all of your borders, then you're not ready. You're not cut out for running and operating a business. Now, I'm not saying that to scare you, but there are times in your business that it will require vastly more than what you are capable of. And what do? You got to go out and learn that. You've got to become that so that you can grow your company. John Maxwell says you are the lid on your organization. And to the extent what you know, the skills that you have, the business knowledge and savviness that you have is a lid. And it is not something that grows on its own. You have to intentionally grow it. You have to take the lid, invest knowledge, training, experience, and lift that lid so that you can get to the next level of business. And Dave Ramsey talks about the 6 drivers of business, and I love that so much because it helps you understand that there are revolutions in business, and you've got to address each of these 6 drivers consistently and intentionally so that you can lift that lid to the next level. And so when you're growing your business, you cannot grow if you're not willing to sacrifice. And so that willingness to be able to invest the 18 hours of workday for a period of time, not indefinitely, is probably going to be a requirement at some point. And hopefully not forever, or hopefully not for a super long term, but there is going to be a requirement when you're going to have to work really long hours, because you have to be able to do that before you can hire your first team member, because you have to be able to make money to pay your first team member, because again, we're operating debt free, right? And so this is a long, hard process, but it is the better process, and it will keep you in business for the long term. Because when you're willing to sacrifice and you strengthen that sacrifice muscle, and you get over yourself, and you teach yourself to do things that you didn't know how to do before, you're beginning to become and embrace the mindset and the required skill of a business owner / leader. And so as you're going about your business, you may have to hire a virtual assistant. My very first team member was not a virtual assistant. It was a local guy. We connected early on in our business, and I was able to bring him in, figure out a list of tasks that were repetitive and that could be trained, and then give those to him so that he could continue doing them each and every day, so that I could do more other things. And that's something that is very important to remember. You don't give all the tasks to your team member so that you can do less. Okay, if you're working 18-hour days and you need to go to work you need to be getting back down to working 8-10 hours a day relatively quickly, so you can kind of normalize your life, spend time with your children, and actually take a walk with your dog once in a while, because life just spent working is not life. Being able to work enough to make enough to hire your first team member. So you worked enough, you make enough, now you can hire your first team member. Now you've made a big list of things that you do each and every day. You can take a look at that list and figure out who you can give, what of those items that you can take and give to a team member that they can do and that they can succeed in, that are going to help your business continue to operate, contribute to the cash flow of the company, and contribute to your continued further growth. This is a big one for a lot of people. You can make a really bad first hire. You can overcompensate. You can undercompensate. You can demotivate your team member because the way you structure your compensation plan isn't tested, especially at the very beginning. You don't have a lot of tested processes or tested compensation systems. You're just working and trying to make a buck and trying to make sure that you survive and your family survives. And you're like, man, I can't do this long term by myself, so I got to get some help. And so when you're in that position and you go to make your first hire, it's really scary, because you're going to have to find out, you're going to have to trust somebody. And if you're like me, and I am not, well, at the beginning, I was very not trusting. In fact, I was like, man, there's no possible way anybody will ever be able to do what I do. And that was really dumb. That was probably one of the dumbest things that I did early on. Was like, man, just thinking that was an impossibility. But then I soon found out, well, I'm working 16 hours, now I'm working 18 hours. Now it's like, I can't do more. If I do more, I'm going to break down. And so we've got to figure this out, or we've got to shut down our doors. And that was the decision at that point for me. So the decision we made was go find a team member, give him some tasks, learn to trust, learn to lead, learn to start developing a culture in a business and a team. And that's a whole nother video series. We'll talk about it another time. So finding reliable freelancers, finding a reliable team members, is absolutely a must at this stage when you're overextended and you need some help. So when I got to this stage, again, I hired my first team member. I found out that I could use some virtual assistants to fill some other holes in our business. And I went out and I found a few virtual assistants to come and help us. And now that's one of the services that my business provides, is helping business owners to find virtual assistants and integrate them into their company. And that's one of the ways that we can help entrepreneurs prosper and grow their businesses. And so when you go out, you don't have to, there are services out there today, just like ours, that you can go out and find people to help you do your business. And they're already vetted. And even some of them, they provide the accountability mechanism like we do. So we help people find the talent and then hold those people accountable to get the work done that those business owners need them to do, so that they continue to prosper and they don't have to focus all the time on trying to figure out if their team member is actually doing any work. So that's something that you have to do at this stage, and then you can move to the next stage. All right, this is step number 3. This is the next thing that you have to master, and it's going to evolve the entire time you run your company, because at different levels of your company will require a different level of mastery. When I first started our company, I didn't realize what was required, and here I'll tell you a really quick story that kind of illustrates this. I heard from a recent business owner that I was listening to. And he said, so I talked to somebody in my space. He was kind of a mentor to me, and he kind of, guided me in some of the ways I was thinking. So this is a very successful gym owner. And he said, I talked to a mentor, and he said, I said, man, I just have trouble getting clients. And the guy's like, oh, we'll just go put out flyers. It's like, really? Yeah, go put out flyers. Okay, so how do I put out flyers? Well, you design a flyer on your computer, print it out, and then go stick it on the windows of cars. And it was like, I don't know if that's illegal, but I don't know if legal or illegal, but anyways, that's what his advice was. And I guess you can do it. So he went out and printed up 300. He made a nice flyer on his computer, printed out 300 pieces, and he went out and just put them all over the place and set them on the cars. And he got one phone call back, and the guy was angry because he put a flyer on his Mercedes, and the guy was like yelling at him because he was like, hey, you messed up my Mercedes. Now my Mercedes is broken. And he's like, man, I just don't want to deal with that. I hope he doesn't call back. And he's like, he just tells the story. It was a very bad experience. He said 2 weeks later, I was talking to the same mentor, and he's like, so, hey, did you do the flyer thing, and how did it go? He's like, yeah, I did the flyer thing. It didn't work. He's like, oh, well, why didn't it work? He's like, well, I don't know. It just didn't work. He's like, well, how many flyers did you put out? It's like, I put out 300. It's like, we test with 5,000. And then after we've got the 5,000 tests done, we put 5,000 per day for 4 weeks. And the new business owner sat there and was like, oh. And there are so many times in your business, especially in the area of marketing, where you're going to have that moment. And you're like, that's what it takes. And so as a new business owner coming to the marketplace in your sphere, there's going to be these moments of, oh. And those oh moments are the ones that transform you or crush you into becoming the business owner that you are required to be to stay in your industry for the long term. So you can accept that or deny it. If you deny it, you'll be crushed and you'll be out of business. If you accept it and learn, you will be able to embrace what is required for marketing and sales in your marketing plan. And that is a step. So the 3 big points, again, cash flow, outsourcing and hiring, and the marketing plan that actually is required to stay in business in your industry for the long term. Having a strong sales and marketing program seems like it's an obvious thing. And that's not what I'm trying to stress here. What I'm trying to stress here is what is required is often misunderstood. So the guy, he needed to do 5,000 just for his test and then do 5,000 a day for a month in order to have true success. And he did 300 and he thought he did enough. And what you are going to run into very early on in your marketing and business and sales strategy as a new business owner, and what will crush your dream and cause it to become a nightmare, is you didn't realize what was required in as far as marketing and sales, you didn't realize how saturated your market was. You didn't realize how many emails you would have to send out, how many phone calls you would have to make. And then you didn't realize the level of sales skill that you would have to have. You haven't created an avatar for your company. Why? Why are you the best? There's 10,000 others that say they're the best too. Like, what makes you different? So that's you as the business owner, the new entrepreneur, figuring out who you are and making sure that you have identified very clearly your avatar, and people can really truly see what makes them different. Like, why should I even work with them? There's 100 other companies that have way better websites. Like, what is your deal? And then the marketing and sales techniques required to get the clients and actually sell well. There's so many different strategies out there, and trainings on YouTube today. It's like, well, hold a piece of paper out and drop the pen in their hands so that when they catch the pen, they feel obligated to sign it. And I think that's all crap. Okay? If you really serve somebody well by introducing them to your product, helping them understand how the product is going to change their life and make it better, and actually serve them well and cause them to succeed, and it's going to provide value and deep intrinsic value in their life, and help them to achieve whatever it is that they're after themselves. It's not about you, it's all about them. Then they're naturally going to want to do business with you, because you pretty much facilitated and met all of their needs and answered all their questions and educated them about your product, and helped them to understand how your product was the product that they needed for whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish. And this takes vastly more work than what you realize. And this is the biggest mistake, I think, maybe even bigger than the first two, that small business owners make, and that crush their dreams and create a nightmare out of their dream, because they never realized that they would have to do so much work to educate, inform, identify the needs of their clients, and then serve their needs and facilitate this really great sales process and experience that people want to do business with them. And so if you don't master these three things in business early on in your company operations, your dream will very soon become a nightmare. Anybody can open a business today. 20% of those people who open this year, they'll be gone by the end of this year. 50% of the people who open this year, they'll be gone within 5 years. But if you're going to be the one who actually makes your dreams come true and learns to operate over the long term, you're going to learn cash flow management, you're going to learn outsourcing and hiring really well, and you're going to learn how to master your sales and marketing strategy, so that as you go about your work, you actually can snatch your dream from the clouds, put some tangible work clothes on it, and cause it to become a reality. So thank you so much for watching the video. Again, please like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in future videos talking about how to keep your dreams from becoming a nightmare as you continue to grow your business.